Okay, welcome to writing day number 4, the argumentative essay. Now, an argumentative essay is a little different than a narrative essay, which is kind of like when you tell a story and say, this one time at Christmas, and you tell a story and that kind of answers the question that's been asked. That's a narrative essay. And then a research essay is when you do extensive research on something you may not have known a lot about beforehand, and then you kind of blend that with your own analysis in an essay. But an argument essay is a written expression of its author's opinion. So it's an expression of something, a subject, or an opinion about a subject that you know quite a bit about without having to do significant research beforehand. Now, before you can have an opinion on a subject, you have to pick a subject. So that's where we're going to start. So oftentimes we think, well, what should I write about? So we're going to try to find subjects for essays. So what you want is to have more than just an accidental knowledge about something, which is like basically things you just know about because you're alive and your brain works. So just things you hear about and you just have a little bit of knowledge about. You want this to be something you have more knowledge than most other people would have just by being alive and having a working brain. So oftentimes that's your hobbies. So maybe something that you just have an interest in and you've researched and learned more about because you have that interest. It also, a lot of times in English class, will be some kind of work that we're reading. It might be a short story or a poem or a novel because you have this extra knowledge or this specialized knowledge because we're reading it and studying it in class. So for instance, Ender's Game, you would currently have specialized knowledge about Ender's Game because you know more than most people would due to the fact that you're reading it. So what I want you to do now is pause this video and try to think of as many subjects that you feel like you know enough about or have a specialized knowledge in, and just list them out in the blank space after this section. So just come up with at least 5 or 6 different subjects you feel like you have some kind of specialized knowledge in. Do that now. Okay, now that you have some subjects listed there on your Google Doc, let's talk about opinions. So first of all, an opinion is not just a fact. For instance, the population of the United States is now more than 200 million. That's just a fact, okay? It's based on absolute certainty. It can be documented. So we need to make sure that if you do have facts, that you have a way to convert those into opinions. So you need to think about, like, what does this fact mean? It might be an interesting fact, but it is a fact, and you have to ask other questions about it or rephrase it in such a way that it becomes an opinion. So an example of using that opinion about the population being more than 200 million people is the American psyche, or the kind of way Americans think about themselves, is changing due to population increase. So that's an opinion of how the psyche is changing. Research is necessary to guarantee food supply in the future. That's an opinion. It's saying that food supply is going to be short in the future because of this population increase. And this last one, new ways to educate children are vital due to population increase. Again, that's an opinion that child education is going to be need to be changed to keep up with the population increase. So those are ways to take that fact into opinion statements. What I'd like for you to do now is pause the video and now pick 1 or 2 of the more interesting subjects that you came up with and try to list as many opinions as you can about those subjects. If you have interesting facts that you know about those subjects, you can state those facts and then try to turn those facts into an opinion. Do that now. Okay, I want to quickly share with you how you might be able to convert some generally accepted statements into opinions. So something like friendship is an important human relationship. Yes, technically that's an opinion, but it's so generally accepted as truth. Like everyone would probably agree that it's an important human relationship, that it's not really an opinion, or at least it's not compelling enough to write about. So we want to make that into a sharply defined judgment. An example of this would be taking it from friendship as an important human relationship and saying, no, friendship is the most important human relationship. That's qualified in the importance of the human relationship into the most important, which is something that probably fewer people would agree with. So the best way to do this, to make things more sharply defined or better opinions, is to just bombard them with questions. So ask yes or no questions. For instance, for this example we used above, that friendship is an important human relationship, it could be like, do boys make better friends than girls? Is friendship possible between boys and girls or parents and children? These are questions you can ask to start to form maybe a more precise or interesting opinion on a subject. You can also ask how, why, and what questions. How can parents and children learn to be friends? Why are boys better friends than girls? Or vice versa. What is friendship? So these are questions you can ask of your opinion. So what I want you to do now is pause the video, look at a couple opinions that you feel are pretty good, and bombard them with some questions, some yes or no questions, some how, why, or what questions, and see if you can make them more sharply defined or just more interesting opinions. Do that now. I want to share this quote because I feel like it's important to think about. So by using this strategy, you will form a great many opinions that you have never put into words, which is another way of saying that you've never really known exactly what you think. Now, I wanted to share that because I feel like argumentative essays are so important, because until you really examine and think about deeply an opinion that you have, you don't really know exactly what you think. So it's really important to do this, just because though you might kind of have these opinions lurking under the surface, until you've really examined them, you don't really know what you truly think. Now, one of the things that makes an opinion really interesting is if a lot of people might disagree with it. So if you have a particular view on a subject that you feel like a lot of people would disagree with, you can be sure that that's going to be a pretty compelling opinion to read about. That's the reason why something like friendship is important is so problematic, because there really isn't anybody that would argue with it. It's just not that interesting. So if you don't have an argument, if nobody's going to argue against what you're saying, your opinion, then you don't really have an essay, at least not a very compelling essay. So it needs to be able to rub a few people the wrong way. And so I want you to pause the video now and pick out an opinion or two that you have that you feel like, man, a lot of people, or at least some people, I could see arguing with this and really disagreeing. So pick out a couple of those now that you think would be opinions that a lot of people or some people would really argue against. Do that now. Now, one of the things that you need to do when you write an essay, an opinion-based essay, an argumentative essay, is that you need to examine the possible reasons that someone might disagree with you. So, for instance, if your opinion is students should do more writing, you need to examine all the possible reasons that students should do less writing. So you need to understand your opposition. And this could potentially lead to you changing your mind. Just remember, that's fine. If it alters your opinion slightly or changes your mind completely, that's fine. That's part of the process. But you always need to ask these questions. Can a really good, logical, valid argument be made against my opinion? And can I defend it logically against this argument? So what I want you to do then is look at one or two opinions that you have, and examine what the opposition, the reasons the opposition might disagree, so what they would use against you, and do that now.